Hello everyone, this is ICBS here and today we're talking about Ironheart. And is she a good character to handle the legacy of the great Iron Man? And you all know me, I love myself some Iron Man. I really loved his character. I liked his journey throughout the MCU from a rich bastard to someone who would sacrifice his life to save the universe. And then you have this character who just randomly dropped into Wakanda Forever movie. And yeah, like Marvel just kind of forgot about this character. We haven't gotten any update on her, but recently I learned that she is getting her own show very soon. I think after Thunderbolts, there is going to be a time slot for her show as well. And she will definitely get some character development that she definitely needs. I just feel like that she's not the right character to handle the legacy of Iron Man to be falling on her shoulders. And just before we talk further about her, I just want to show you what her origins are in the comic books. So basically this is her origins in the comic books. So we're just going to read it very quickly. And she says, "Hi." And then the teacher says, "This is quiet time, Miss Williams." And then to that she replies, "I wanted you to know that I've decided what I will be when I grow up." The teacher says, "Oh, okay, sure, let's hear it." And then she says, "I am going to be a scientist." The teacher says, "Great." And then she's surprised. She says, "Great?" And the teacher repeats, "Yeah, that's great." And then she says, "No, you're supposed to say you mean like a nurse or something." And then I say, and then the teacher says, "Why the hell would I even say that?" And to that she says that you're supposed to tell me that nursing and teaching are noble professions and that people like me don't get to grow up and be scientists. And the teacher is like, "Why the hell would I even say that?" And then she shows this picture and says that that's what they said to the first African American female astronaut. And then the teacher is like, "Yeah, well, that was a long time ago." And then she told them, "No, I am going to be a scientist." And then she did it. And then over here in the next page, she says, "Yes, that was a long time ago. Things were different back then, but because of people like her, a girl like you can do whatever you want, fly anywhere you want, and be anyone you want." And you can see, like, just I want you to focus on her expressions because this is done so well. Like, just look at her face. Like, she's so disappointed. Like, this is not the character arc she wanted. And then you have over here, I was kind of hoping you'd tell me the opposite so I would have something to inspire me to prove you wrong. So she's like, she wants to face adversity. Like, what the hell? And then the teacher is like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't help you." And she's just standing there like an idiot. She's just standing there. Next, over here, she's like, the teacher just sighs and she's like, "Fine, okay, whatever, you'll never be Tony Stark." And then she's just still there looking blank, like this is the face of a psychopath. And then she's like, "Hell yeah, really?" Oh, and then she's like, "I'm totally going to be Tony Stark, except for that weird facial hair." So this is her character. You can see just how self-obsessed she is. She wants to be a victim and rise above it. Like, you're not a victim. If you want to be whatever, then be whatever. And the only reason she wants to be Iron Man is because in some random moment the teacher off the top of her head said, "Oh, you'll never be Tony Stark." And then she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be Tony Stark." Like, in this moment, if the teacher had said, "You won't be Albert Einstein," would she go and be an Albert Einstein? I think that she would be. The only reason she is the successor of Tony Stark is because the teacher in this very candid moment said, "You'll never be Tony Stark." And then she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be Tony Stark." Like, she could have said anyone's name and then this psychopathic kid would have tried to be that person. This is the narcissism that is supposed to take the mantle of Iron Man and, go forward with that name. That is absurd. Like, I just don't think that she's a good character. And that comic doesn't necessarily means that this is the way that Marvel will do things. Marvel obviously has a tendency to change things from comic books. In fact, this is what they overtly try to do, that like they try to make things different from the comic books. So I don't know if it will be better or worse if whatever Marvel decides to do. And like, we know a little bit of what Marvel did. We can see her design of the suit, and obviously we can, see and, assume a couple of things from just these very brief moments. Now over here we can see her suit, and her suit is supposed to be Ironheart if you look at the comic book version. In fact, just give me a second, I will Google it. So if you look over here, this is what her suit is supposed to look like in the comic books, and you can see that she looks a lot closer to this Iron Man suit. Of course, she doesn't have any arc reactor over here, but visually it looks very similar to Iron Man suit with the face and the eyes and the colors as well. Of course, you have pink instead of red, but this looks very similar to Iron Man. But if you look at what Marvel did over here, you can see that they definitely changed the suit. They didn't want her to be a copy of Iron Man. They wanted her to have something of her own to be shown in the big screen. And if you do that, like, she has in no way any connection to Iron Man or Tony Stark. At least I don't think there was in this movie. And then it's very weird that Marvel is choosing her to be successor of Tony Stark. But there are a couple of people that I think could have been a much better successor for Tony Stark. Over here in Iron Man 3, which I already made a video about, it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and in that movie you could see that Iron Man is struggling from a lot of things, PTSD and whatnot, and you have this kid that just randomly shows up, and for a time Iron Man tag teams with this kid, and the movie is not very vocal about it. It's very subtle. In fact, it's just left up to your assumption whether if this kid is going to be the inheritor or successor of Iron Man. And the way Iron Man is in Iron Man 3, he's down on his luck and he needs this kid to help him in his character growth, right? Like, the dynamic that these two guys had was so good, and you really believe that this kid could actually become the next Iron Man. Of course, he later showed up in Endgame as well, all grown up. But the thing is, Marvel, even in the earlier days where, like, Marvel was very consistent, but still Marvel, like, it still had some inconsistencies even the earlier days. Maybe the whole vision of Iron Man 3 was to make sure that this kid actually grows up to be the successor of Iron Man, but you have, producers like Kevin Feige, and then later on different directors with their own visions and whatnot. They came in and they probably just forgot that this character even exists, or what Iron Man 3 even tried to do with this character. So you have this character that can definitely be the successor of Iron Man, but if not this character, then you obviously have Spider-Man. Like, he's smart as well, just like Tony Stark, and they shared a lot of screen time together. They definitely have a certain relationship with one another, and I do think that Peter Parker could have been the best guy to inherit Iron Man. Like, I can actually imagine Peter Parker being the face of the Avengers, or actually be the leader of Avengers. I can certainly imagine that. But on the other hand, you have this character who has nothing in common with Iron Man, never met him, I think. And Marvel is going to make a show about her, and I am definitely excited to see what Marvel will do. Knowing Marvel, it's probably not going to be anything good, but like, I'm at least, morbidly curious just to see what this character is going to be like. With that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, it's time for a goodbye.